Pastor John.
Thank you, Becca. Appreciate you very much. Well, friends, you and I need wisdom to live life that includes with what we say. For example, it's knowledge to know that I could show up for the choir tryouts. It's courage to show up for the choir tryouts. But Becca's going to need wisdom to tell me no. You and I need wisdom and things for life. I want to especially think about that just as you think about church and our fellowship with one another. You know, we call ourselves a family, and I hope that we are to one another here. But, the family's bigger than just us. This is our immediate family, yes. But the family's much, much bigger. Right now, our ministry team is down in La Misión, Mexico. They were down there the last couple days doing VBS. It looked like a Candyland-themed VBS from the pictures I was getting. With a couple hundred children they were ministering to right there. And then Pastor Thomas, you see there in the foreground, he's down there speaking right now. He's preaching to Calvary Chapel La Misión. I just want you to see that because when we talk about living wisely as Christians, and part of what we just saw there, as Beck was talking about giving at 412 Church, what is all that accomplishing? It's not just about you being comfortable on a Sunday morning. It's not just about you having your seat in the room. It's not just about having the lights and the AC on. It's not just about having hot dogs and hamburgers out in the courtyard later after the service. It's about so much more. And the more that we see that, the more that we realize that, the more meaningful it really becomes. But it's not just out there. It is also here as well. This last week, our student ministry went to camp up at Thousand Pines. And those that I've talked to already this morning have all said what a wonderful time that they had together, what an encouraging time, things that they've learned together. And I want to ask you to do that. If you know someone, a student, or one of our leaders who went to camp, touch base with them today and ask them what happened. What's the best thing about camp? Like, who did you meet? What did you learn? Something like that. Who did you encourage or who encouraged you? We need moments like that because our student ministry exists because of the generosity, the cheerful giving of God's people, of our family right here. It's not just about the building. It's about people. And there's one of the places that we see it. Some of those kids got to go to camp because of your cheerful giving, because of your generosity, because of your work at the fundraisers and different things like that. You made that possible. Not just that we have a student ministry, but this even experience right here. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for having the wisdom to put your money where your mouth is, to put your time where your mouth is, to actually do what you say really matters. We say Jesus is worth it. Our God, how great thou art. Well, that, if it's true, ought to change how we live, ought to change how we think. And what we're going to see today is it ought to change how we speak. We're looking at the book of Proverbs today, a book written to give us wisdom for life. Not just information, not just instruction. When God gives you instructions, commands, imperatives, you'd better follow. You better hear it, you better grasp it, you better do it. But he also gives you wisdom. Wisdom is what you need to kind of navigate the nuances of life, the situations of life. Sometimes God just tells you straight out, I want you to do this. But how and when and how you deal with people along the way, that requires wisdom. The book of Proverbs is the primary book of the Bible meant to give you wisdom to live life. There's several of the wisdom books of the Old Testament, how to deal with the agony of looking back at your life feeling like you wasted it. The book of Ecclesiastes, the book of Job, how wisdom for how you suffer in life when you don't know why it's happening. Why, God, why did you take my spouse from me? God, why did you take my children from me? God, why did you take my job from me? God, why is all this happening? The book of Job is so important for that. For marriage and relationships, Song of Solomon. But just kind of for life, the book of Proverbs, more than 800 nuggets of wisdom through it. But some topics you need to talk about more. And there are a few topics that God talks about more in the book of Proverbs than how you talk. And when God talks about how you talk, you better stop talking and listen. Of about 800 nuggets of proverbial wisdom in this book, 16% of it, roughly, has to do with how you and I talk, how you and I speak. The words that we say when we should not be talking, the words we should not say, The words that other people say that you and I are listening to or should not be listening to. About 16% of the entire book has to do with that topic. And we're going to try to address it all today. You and I need wisdom to live life. Not just knowledge, not just knowing what I could do. Wisdom is knowing what you could do, what the options are. Wisdom is when you actually do the thing you should do. I could say this, but should I say this? I could say this to that person, you left side people over there. I'm a right side person. Just sometimes we look over at you left side people and throw shade. Should I have said that? I don't know. Wisdom would have told me. Should have told me. Maybe I wasn't listening. Knowledge is knowing something. Wisdom is doing something and doing it well. Well, when it comes to our words, you and I had better listen to the wisdom of God, because there really is no way to more efficiently, to more deeply, to more quickly destroy someone than with your words. The things that we say, the things that we post, the things that we type, the things we publish, have a power to them that we often just kind of skip over in life. Like, it's not that big a deal. Okay, someone told me this secret in confidence. I'm only telling one person. We giggle because we've all done it. Or we've all had it done to us. Well, I only told my wife. Well, I only told my husband. Well, I only told one of my kids. Yeah, but then they went and told all the other kids, and then the whole church now knows about it. And now Governor Newsom's talking about it on the evening news. That's just how that goes. And the Bible warns you of that. The Bible talks about our words with a number of illustrations. The number one illustration is that of a fire. It's fire season here in California. We know how one spark, one little ember, can end up destroying so much. That's the illustration that's used of our words all through the book of Proverbs, all through the Bible. And friends, you and I this morning need to learn the lesson and be the fire break when it comes to what we say and what we listen to. God has wisdom for us in both those areas. You and I have to become the fire break. In 2019, my family and I were living in Alaska, and every summer in Alaska had something different. One year it's the bees, one year it's the gnats, one year it's the mosquitoes. One year it rained so much, moss grew on top of our cars. It just never stopped the whole summer. It just was constantly wet. Another summer, it didn't rain for 2 months straight. Basically all of July and all of August, it just didn't rain. And we lived on the coast, in a place where it rains a lot. If you looked up on the weather app right now where my house was, it just rain, 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 snow, 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 rain, 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 rain. It just kind of, that's normally how it is. This summer, it didn't rain for 2 months. And what started out as a little fire near Swan Lake erupted into this inferno. At first, they were saying, oh, we'll let it burn a little bit. We'll contain it. They couldn't. One day, my family and I were driving the one road that connected the entire county to the rest of the continent. There's only one road. This is what that road looked like. Both sides of the highway here. I don't know why that road was open, other than it was the only road. They shut it down for like a week, and then they had to open it because it was the only way to get stuff in. So, one lightning strike, one spark burned that whole area. When we deal with fire, there's certain breaks, we call them fire breaks, certain barriers to contain stuff like that. We hear about wildfires here in California, we talk about 10% containment, 20% containment. That doesn't mean that the fire's 20% out. It means we have kept in check. We're holding it somewhere. 20% of it is held in place. And there's different ways to do that. You can do it with a road. A road's a great fire barrier, unless, of course, the embers jump the road. Lakes are a great barrier. Obviously, water helps with fire. The tops of ridges, because fire likes to burn uphill, not downhill. So the tops of ridges are really important. That's called Skyline Ridge right there, by the way. There's certain barriers, and you got to use life to create these barriers to contain things that are destroying life. But when it comes to our words, you and I need to establish some fire breaks And maybe in your life, with your friends, your family, your church, your community, your social media, you need to be that fire break, because the more you feed it, the more it will burn. First thing you and I need to recognize from the book of Proverbs is this: the power that our words have. Sometimes we think of what we say, or the little sins of life, like lying. Okay, at least I didn't murder someone. At least I didn't, burn down Walmart. I just lied about what time I got home. I just lied about this person. Well, I didn't even lie. I just repeated something that I heard from someone else. If anyone lied, it was them. No, you did when you repeated something you did not know was true. It was something that could harm someone else. You were part of the inferno that has now erupted across your life. The Bible warns you of this. The book of James, often called the Proverbs of the New Testament, it's not really like a proverbial book, but it's got a lot of wisdom in it just for living life. And in chapter 3 of the book of James, James uses 3 illustrations to speak about our tongue, about what we say, about how we talk. He relates it to an inferno, to a fire that starts small and then burns down a forest, to a bridle that moves a horse. I worked on a cattle ranch when I was in college in a ranch near a place called Chugwater, Wyoming. And I am not a horse guy. Never have been. Never claimed to be a cowboy, nothing like that. Mama didn't raise this boy to grow up to be a cowboy. I just worked around horses. Well, one day, my manager says, hey, go ride the horse. He had this great horse. He said, he will do what you tell him to do. Okay. What you tell a horse to do is not going to change his mind. There's certain cues, certain ways you control a horse. At one point, I forgot that if you squeeze your legs in, that's the gas pedal. You go. And all of a sudden, this horse was doing what I told him to do. He was going, and I couldn't stop him. Again, I'm not a horse guy. I knew that detail. I had the knowledge, I didn't have the wisdom. And so I'm racing down this dirt road. This big horse is trying to not kill himself, but he maybe kill me, because I'm digging my heels into him, trying to just hold on for dear life. The only bit of control I had was the bridle. I could turn him. James uses that as an illustration. The words that you say are like a bridle. You can steer your life this way or that way. He relates it then to the rudder of a ship. How such a massive thing with so many lives held in its possession can be steered by this little thing and a little turn, a little word, a little repetition of something can either crash it or lead you safely home. That's the power of our words. The book of Proverbs says it this way, Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. I've asked this question many times through the book of Proverbs. What is it that we love? Toward the beginning of the book, it was asked this way in chapter 2. What is your ear attentive to? What are you listening to? When you open up your phone, when you jump on social media, when you get around certain people, what are you listening to? You know that certain crowd of people are going to talk about this thing. Why are you listening to it? Well, I'm not saying it. I'm just taking it in. I'm just trying to be informed. Well, maybe being informed is a very good thing. People need to be far more informed than they are. But wisdom tells you the difference between being informed on relevant topics and then just consuming gossip and slander and chaos and controversy. Those are not the same thing. And what we say can bring life and it can bring death to other people. How many of you remember this old phrase? Loose lips sink ships. It's a saying from the World War II era. As people were producing ships and were sending them across the Atlantic, German submarines were destroying ships. Sailors on boats landing at different places, going out on the town, just having some relaxation, would talk about which ship they were on, where they were going, where they were from, how many people were on the boat. Loose lips sink ships because that information gets out, and you very well could die. One of your friends on the other ships could very well die if you just are talking things you shouldn't be talking about to people you shouldn't be talking to. That requires wisdom. What we say has life and death in it. And those who love it will eat its fruit. Well, what if we're just like, we're just joking around, right? We all have said and have had said to us hurtful things. And then we said, hey, just JK, man. The Bible actually talks about that. Take your Bible and go over to Proverbs chapter 26. Now, most of the book of Proverbs, after chapter 10, is this kind of shotgun approach that is kind of spreading out these little nuggets of truth that are not really in blocks. It's just something over here and something over here. So this is a section that actually has a block of wisdom, and it all has to do with what you say. Proverbs chapter 26, verse 18 says this, like a madman throwing fire, arrows, and death is the man who deceives his neighbor and then says, I'm only joking. Comedy's great. Humor's great. It's a gift from God. Deception is not. Foolishness, saying, hey, it was just a joke, is not. There's appropriate times to have fun. Every other time is not appropriate, especially when it's at the expense of someone else. Like someone throwing fire, shooting arrows, dealing death is the one who deceives his neighbor and says, I'm only joking. Verse 20, for the lack of wood, fire goes out. And where there is no whisperer, no gossip, no talker, the quarrels cease. As charcoal to hot embers and wood to fire, so is the quarrelsome, the person who causes strife, who causes disunity, who causes problems. As coal is to embers and wood to fire, so is the quarrelsome man for kindling strife. And then notice verse 22. The words of the whisperer are like delicious morsels. They go down into the inner parts of the body. It's one thing to be the talker who's spreading it, but verse 22 is talking about the consumer. Gossip, slander, juicy news about other people, controversy that'll get everyone riled up. Why do we eat it up? Why is so much of social media targeting that emotion in you? Because they know it sells. And all of us have been in those situations where someone's talking and we know we should not be listening. We should be rebuking this. We should stop this. But we don't. Why? One, because we're afraid. We're afraid of someone making fun of us. We're afraid of offending the person who's talking. Why are we never afraid for the person who's being talked about? Why are they totally left out of the equation in our lives? Generally, the answer is because we're selfish creatures. And we're more concerned about the immediate situation here than we are about the fire that's going to come of this. Those who love it, life or death, will eat its fruit. What you talk about, what you repeat, what you consume, what you surround yourself with, you will get the result of that. Friends, what is it? Where do you spend your time? Who are you listening to? What are the things you love to talk about? Proverbs 10 says it this way, the mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. Oh, you might have said the nice thing. You run into that person you just cannot stand at the store, and you said good morning, you said hi, how you doing? Well, you didn't mean it. You didn't care. Thank you for being polite to them at the store, but what about when you got in the car? Can you believe this person? You're down your phone texting. I just ran into this person. Remember what they said about me? Don't text it. You had wisdom in showing grace and restraint in the store, but now you're losing it on your phone. The mouth of the righteous, or we could say the fingers of the righteous, posting things, tweeting things, whatever word you want to use for that, is a fountain of life. When people think about you, are they excited? Hey, that person's here. What they are going to say is going to be good. It's going to be encouraging. It's going to bring life to my life. Or, yeah, it might be interesting, but this person's full of it. Just because people listen to you doesn't mean you're wise. Just because people consume your content doesn't mean it's true. Just because you like what that person is saying doesn't mean they're accurate. That requires wisdom to sift through. A wise person is a fountain of life. Many of us have heard this phrase through our lives. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. You know what? There's actually some proverbial wisdom in that. If you go to Proverbs chapter 12, verse 16, it says this: the frustration of a fool is known at once. They just explode at everything. But the wise man ignores an insult. What this proverb, the social proverb, was meant to communicate was, get over it. Have thick skin. Someone says something, yeah, it does hurt. But you can't control what they say, and you can't control how it hurts. All you can control is how you respond. The wise man ignores the insult. My children come to me and they say, my brother called me a baby. How I respond now matters. Who said that? Let me get him. Stop talking to me. As I've grown up, my response has come to be, Daddy called me a baby. Here's what I try and say. Is it true? No. Don't worry about it. He's the fool, not you. Don't worry about it. A wise man ignores the insult. Move on. Have thick skin. Words will never hurt me. There's wisdom to that, but it's also just, this phrase is not true. Words do hurt. They hurt far more than bullets and knives. The greatest pain that I have felt in life, and I'd be willing to bet many of you, has been the words that have come from someone. Usually it's someone close, someone you trusted, someone you cared about, someone you worked with, someone you lived with. That does hurt. There's things that have been said to me in my life. I would rather have taken a beating with sticks and stones. But you know, there's also things that I've said that I wish I could have taken a beating with sticks and stones than now I wish that I had said. I wish I had never said those things, because that did hurt that person. It ruined that friendship. In fact, the book of Proverbs again talks about this. A dishonest man spreads strife. Strife is bitterness, anger, malice, division, fights. A dishonest man, how can you be dishonest? With what you speak, how you communicate, what you type, what you share, what you publish. A whisperer, not just someone who talks softly. A whisperer is someone who gossips, who's constantly saying, hey, did you hear about so-and-so? Did you hear what they did? Did you hear what they said? Well, were you there? No, I wasn't there, but I heard from someone whose cousin was there. That's a whisperer. You're just repeating, you're regurgitating the garbage that someone spewed on you, and you're passing it along to someone else. You're a disease spreader. You're a garbage collector. You're a whisperer. A whisperer separates close friends. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. But it might end relationships. It might end friendships. It might destroy your church. It may destroy your family. It may destroy your marriage. It may destroy your job. Someone accuses you of stealing at your job. You might lose your job. Oh, but words will never hurt me. Hogwash. Baloney. Whatever word we want to use for that. In contrast to that, 4 verses earlier, gracious words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the body. Friends, what do we shout? What do we publish? What do people hear from us? Do they hear whispers about other people? Or do they hear grace from us? The word grace there, gracious words, is a word that's only used 7 times in the entire Bible. And it's usually translated beautiful, pleasant. In fact, twice in the book of Psalms, that word is used to talk about God himself, the majesty of God, the beauty of God. What is it like to experience God as he really is? That's the word that's used here. Gracious, beautiful things. When you speak those things, you bring life to people. When people speak those things to you, does it not bring life to you? It's a simple question. You want your wife, you want your husband to speak gracious things? Or to just whisper the gossip they heard from so-and-so, from so-and-so, from so-and-so? Which really brings life to you? Obviously, the gracious words. And that's what we are supposed to have. Friends, that requires us to recognize the power of our words so that we might be the fire break in life, to protect ourselves and to protect other people. When someone's just talking, There comes a time, wisdom will tell you when to just walk away. I'm not listening to this anymore. What you're saying might be true, but I'm not the one to go digging for the dirt. You get a text message, ladies. Hey, from your friend, of course. Hey, I just saw your husband at the store. He's talking to a lady. What immediately starts running through your mind? Gracious, excellent things? Maybe you ask, who is he talking to? The checkout clerk. Why would you tell me about that? There's some people who just have to talk. And when you identify those people, wisdom tells you when to ignore them. Wisdom tells you when to block them. Wisdom tells you when to get new friends. Wisdom tells you when to listen and when not to. The power of words is absolutely incredible. You and I need to be careful. That's why all through the book of Proverbs, we then see that the tongue is something not to be unbridled, but to be bridled. Like the rudder of a ship, like the bridle in a horse's mouth, like a fire break in life. You and I are to control ourselves, but not just in what we say, what comes out of us, but we also will see what comes in and what we keep in. I grew up in western Colorado near a place called Glenwood Springs, and there's a I-70 runs east and west across the state of Colorado, goes over the Rocky Mountains, in this one canyon area near Glenwood Springs. I grew up going up and down that canyon, and I noticed every time we went up and down that canyon, there was a certain spot where on the south slope, north-facing, but south slope facing the highway, there was this like dead spot in the foliage. And I asked my dad one time, I was like 5 years old, what is that? And he said, son, that's an underground fire. There's a coal seam that runs through there, and somehow it got ignited, and it's burning its way across this mountain. And I remember being a very young man driving west on that road with my dad, and I said, why don't they just put out the fire? Of course, my 5-year-old mind's like, just spray it with a hose. And my dad's trying to explain to a 5-year-old boy how an underground fire works and how you have to dig down to it. And it's hot, and you got to survive getting down to it and then trying to put it out. And yeah, the state of Colorado spent millions of dollars trying to put this thing out. Until finally, they just had to cut part of the mountain. You have to get ahead of the thing and cut a fire break line, literally dig out part of the mountain, or you're never going to put it out. You have to cut somewhere and let it burn to this point and then stop. Friends, you and I need to be that stop point. And the gossip and the speech that surrounds us in life, in the noise of our modern world, whether it's on the TV or on your phone, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Snapchat, whatever it is, at school, you are supposed to be the fire break. Why do we say that? Because again, the book of Proverbs says this, a fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. Man, if modern social media had a life Bible verse, it would be that verse right there, Proverbs 18:2. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in regurgitating, expressing, shouting out, posting opinions. Opinions are fine. Someone asks you a question, it's fine to give your opinion. What kind of pizza do you want? I don't care, I just don't want pineapple on it. That's my opinion. It may not be yours, that's okay, we're not going to fight about that. But to go out there then on social media or to go out on the street and start preaching about how everyone who eats pineapple on their pizza is an idiot and a fool and a communist and everything else. That escalated quickly, didn't it? That's foolishness. To just walk around and tell everyone, hey, I hate pineapple. Hey, I actually love pineapple. I just don't want it on my pizza. I love pineapple on the side of my pizza, but not. Eventually people are going to say this is a fool and this is all he wants to talk about, and they're going to break off friendships and stop listening to you, as they should. A fool is one who just has to express his or her opinion, but notice they have no understanding. I have lots of opinions when it comes to my car, but I'm a really bad mechanic, so you probably shouldn't take my opinion as understanding. Don't ask me to fix your car. I have no understanding. So wisdom says, go ask someone else. I have opinions when it comes to dentistry, but I'm no dentist. And so I may express my opinion in certain situations, but I'm going to listen to the understanding of other people. Proverbs 29:11, a fool gives full vent to his spirit. He just explodes at everything. He has no problem telling you how he feels about anything and everything. There's times to share what you're feeling, what you think on things, absolutely. But a fool just vents it everywhere. Can you believe what happened in Washington? Can you believe what happened in Israel? Can you believe what happened in Iran? Well, do you know what happened? No, I watched a video on YouTube. That has become the basis of truth in our world. What video you watched, what video you watched, what video you watched. They all say different things. And it's so hard to just fight your way through the noise to find out what actually happened. Why? Because our world is full of fools who just vent their frustration, vent their opinions. They vent what will sell to you. I know. I built 2 YouTube channels, got in the algorithm game. There's what you want to publish on YouTube, and then there are things that people want to watch on YouTube. And eventually what you want to publish on YouTube will bend to what sells on YouTube. A fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back. That's called self-control. Remember we saw that in the book of Titus? Teach the young men to have what? Self-control. Older women, self-control. Younger women, self-control. Older men, self-control. Pastors, self-control. Everyone in the Christian world is supposed to have sophroneo, to live with wisdom, to act wisely. It's proverbial wisdom. The book of Proverbs, likewise, says in chapter 13, verse 3, whoever guards his mouth preserves his life, but he who opens wide his lips, someone who just talks and says nothing, but they're talking, comes to ruin. Loose lips sink ships. Loose lips sink relationships. Loose lips destroy friendships. Loose lips frustrate people. You and I need to learn when to speak and when not to speak. Probably the most meaningful verse in the book of Proverbs to me on this is Proverbs 10:19. Because I had a friend one time confront me. Now, other times I've been really pious with this. I remember sitting in a gym in LaGrange, Wyoming, ignoring everyone around me because, frankly, I was very selfish and very shy. And I was more concerned about how I felt they might think about me than what they actually thought about me, because I didn't know how they thought about me because I never talked to anyone. I actually had someone walk over to me and say, "You're really quiet. Why is that?" Well, I didn't want to admit I was just selfish. So I said, well, Proverbs 10:19 says, where words are many, sin is not lacking. I had that in my back pocket because I got confronted with this when I was a younger man. When I was at the 13 stage, the early teen years, I changed. I was very shy growing up, and then got to my early teen years, and all of a sudden I wanted to be liked by everyone, and so I just talked. And I always had to say something. I had to fill the space. I had to fill the empty air with something. And a mentor of mine came to me and said, "John, you need to stop talking." I want to give you a proverb. It was that proverb right there. When words are many, sin is not lacking, but whoever restrains his lips is wise. That doesn't mean you can't talk to people. It just means you're wise in what you're saying. You're wise when you talk, and you're wise when you're not talking. You and I need wisdom for both. And notice here, when words are many, sin is not lacking, so whoever restrains it is wise. Why? Because when you restrain what you say, you won't get in trouble for saying it. Kind of like when we put out fires, right? We drop the fire retardant not on the fire. You drop it in front of the fire so the fire stops at a certain place. That's what Proverbs is meant to do for you and for me, to give us a fire break line so that the fire stops at this point. It doesn't go any further because I stopped talking. But again, it's not just what I say. Proverbs also talks about what we listen to. A couple of verses here I want you to see. Proverbs 26:20. For the lack of wood, the fire goes out, and where there is no whisperer, quarreling ceases. That's talking about the one talking. Where there is no whisperer, the fire stops. The gossip stops. The bullying stops. When no one's talking. It can also stop, however, when no one's listening to it anymore. Proverbs 17:4. An evildoer, notice it doesn't say talks, it says listens. An evildoer listens to wicked lips, and a liar gives his ear to a mischievous tongue. Listening can be just as bad as talking. We always try to justify that. Hey, I'm not the one saying it. I'm just a shoulder to cry on. I'm just someone. I'm just there for my friend at the moment. Maybe you are, but then again, maybe you're not. Wisdom tells you the difference. Is this person asking for help, or are they venting frustration? Are they asking for comfort, or are they spreading lies? That takes wisdom. It takes listening. But once we pick up on the wicked, mischievous part, now it has to stop. Unless I become part of the inferno. Unless I soak it in and then I have to go and pass it on to someone else. Stop it. Not just when someone's talking, but again, when someone is on your phone. Someone's opinions online are probably wrong. Just because you saw a video of it and they had nice graphics and maps and all that kind of stuff doesn't mean they were right. Friends, you and I are infected with a disease from social media where we just regurgitate things because we saw a video, or maybe we saw 3 videos on it, and enough people have said it that we now just believe it and now we regurgitate it. You and I need to be so careful with that. For wisdom's sake, and maybe for someone else's life's sake, you and I need to be the fire break. Not just for your sake, though, and not even just for their sake, though, but how about this, for God's sake? For God's sake, stop talking. For God's sake, stop listening to the noise, to the gossip, to the chaos. Why? Because God cares. And He warns you about these things, and eventually, if you don't listen to the warning, you are going to care. God gives us lots of warnings in life. My dad warned me one time, don't ever touch the cigarette lighter in our old Chevy Blazer. One day I was about 10 years old. We were in a little town called Mesa, Colorado. My dad parked the car, ran inside to talk to a friend. He ran the business there. And as a 10-year-old kid, sitting in my dad's car, what am I going to mess with? Of course, the thing he told me not to mess with. Some of you don't know what cigarettes lighter, that little thing you plug your power supply into now, and I know most of it's USB-Cs and stuff, but there's still that kind of that round spot. They used to have these things called cigarette lighters in them, and you would push it in, and it would engage the electrical system, and if you left it in there long enough, it would glow like 1 billion degrees. And wisdom says don't touch it when it's hot. Wisdom would also have said, listen to your dad, whether you think it's hot or not, because I pushed that thing in, waited a few seconds, pulled it out, it wasn't red. So what does a 10-year-old boy do? This finger right here. Touched it. It doesn't need to be red to burn you. God gave me a father who gave me a warning. I didn't listen to either of them. And for the next 36 hours, my hand was in a cup full of snow because it hurt. And it did not stop hurting. Wisdom tells you what you should do, and you should care, especially when God says that He cares. Proverbs chapter 6, for example, this is one of those blocks of text of the book of Proverbs that tell you about a specific subject. It says this, there are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to Him. 2 of the 7, actually, I take it back, 3 of the 7 have to do with what we say. Friends, don't be the one, don't be the witness that God hates. God cares about what you say. He cares about whether it's true. He cares about whether it's real. Not only does God broadly care about that, I want you to go to Matthew chapter 12. In Matthew chapter 12, Jesus is listening to some people talk. He has just healed someone, and these people who are following Him around start saying, we think you are only able to do that because you have a demon in you. It's in this section of Matthew chapter 12 where Jesus warns in Verse 32, whoever speaks a word against the Son of Man will be forgiven, but whoever speaks against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven, neither in this age or in the age to come. What you say matters. So shut your mouth before you say something stupid. If you're going to say it, it better be good. It better be worthwhile. It better have some value to it. Be careful about what you say. Verse 33, either make the tree and its fruit good or make the tree and its fruit bad, for the tree is known by its fruit. And using the illustration of seeing what's actually inside someone. Verse 34, Matthew 12, verse 34, you brood of vipers. Jesus said that. Now, he only says it like twice in the entire book, but there comes time to call someone out. That's not the default, that's the exception. Here he calls them out. You brood of vipers, for out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks, and the good person out of the good treasure brings forth good, and the evil person out of his treasure brings forth evil. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give an account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. You and I will give an account to Jesus Christ for everything we say. Everything we type, everything we publish, and you're going to have to answer for it. Why did you do that? For the clicks and the giggles. It's a bad answer. To make money, bad answer. Hey, I was just joking. Bad answer. Every word we speak ought to be filtered through the wisdom of Proverbs. Is this good? Is this right? Is it honest? Is it wise to say? If not, just stop. Not only does Proverbs talk about this, not only does Jesus talk about this, we see it in other places. Like again, James chapter 3, key chapter in the New Testament on how we speak and the danger of it. James says this toward the end of that section of James 3, no one can tame the tongue. What we say, it is a restless evil full of deadly poison. With it we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse people who are made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth come blessing and cursing. My brothers, these things ought not to be so. Not here. Not amongst us. It shouldn't be this way. What should it be then? Well, we can go to Ephesians chapter 4, for example. This section of Ephesians 4, the Apostle Paul is talking about what the new Christian life looks like. You say you've been saved, chapter 1 and chapter 2. Then in chapter 3, 4, 5, and 6, what does it look like to live as a Christian? Here's part of it. It's full of commands. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouth. Command number 1. Nothing wicked, nothing evil, nothing corrupting, nothing maniacal, nothing mischievous. Don't let it come out, but only what is good for building up. And notice this, as fits the occasion. That's called wisdom. Sometimes it's good to say the right thing. Sometimes it's good to just not say anything at all. The book of Proverbs says, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. You know what the very next verse says? Don't answer a fool according to his folly. So which is it? As fits the occasion. As fits the person. That's what wisdom is. That it may give grace to those who hear. And do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God. Notice how what we say is connected with how we grieve God. By whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. And let all bitterness, this is not like a suggestion, by the way, this is an imperative in the original language. Let all bitterness and wrath, anger, clamor, slander be put away with you, along with all malice. Be kind, it's a command, be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you. God did it for you. You claim it for yourself. You better be regurgitating the right things. Call yourself a Christian. There's your instructions. And sometimes people say strange things like, time heals all wounds. It really doesn't. Maybe the pain dulls. Time doesn't really heal all wounds. It just buries them. Especially emotional things, relational things. It just buries it until you see that person again. Someone mentions their name, and then all those emotions, all that hurt comes back up, doesn't it? Like a zombie. It just goes back up. Time does not heal all wounds, but grace does. Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. That's called grace. So how do we live? How do we move forward from here? Well, first thing I want to ask you to do is on your way out, in that wooden pamphlet holder, the shack back there in the foyer as you leave, on the left side as you walk out the doors, there's this pamphlet we have published back there for you. It says Talk on it. It's got some instructions for you, just some basic wisdom from the book of Proverbs and throughout the Bible, and things we ought to think about how we speak, when we shouldn't. Here's just eight of them. 8 nuggets of wisdom to live by in the book of Proverbs. This is not the same that's on the pamphlet, so you might want to take a picture of this. Number 1, get over it. The wise man ignores an insult. No, you don't have to fight. No, you don't have to throw hands. No, you don't. A wise man walks away. Proverbs 20:19. Do not associate with a simple babbler. Don't be around people like that, because eventually they're going to babble about you. They're going to share all your secrets. They're going to destroy your life. Walk away. Get to work. That one has to actually do with going to work. There's someone who talks about all they can do, and then someone who actually does it. Mere talk tends only to poverty. Go to work. Pick your battles. Do not speak in the hearing of a fool. Answer a fool according to his folly. Don't answer a fool according to his folly. Pick your battles wisely in life. Don't be the guy that God hates, the witness who he hates, the one who sows discord, the one that he hates. Speak softly. A soft answer turns away wrath. The wise man ignores the insult, and a soft answer turns away wrath. Talk less. When words are many, sin is not lacking, but whoever restrains his lips is wise. And lastly, listen more. The wise man listens to advice. And what we're going to see here in a couple of weeks is in the book of Proverbs, a wise man not only listens to advice, he listens to rebuke. He listens to correction. One of the easiest ways to tell if someone's humble is how they handle criticism. What do they say in response? Friends, you and I need wisdom to live by. And if we will heed the wisdom of God, we will be the fire break in life. The fire will stop with us. And it will save lives. It will save relationships. It will save marriages. And people will notice. You know, everyone at the office just eats up this gossip that I have, except that one person. Why? They may hate you for it. But then again, when it's about them, they will love you for it. Be the fire break in life. God gives you instructions. He gives you wisdom. What will you do with it? Would you pray with me? Father, thank you for your grace toward us in giving instructions for this life. We are your people, your creatures living in your world. Lord, may we have the wisdom to hear your instructions, to see how your world operates, how your law of goodness operates, such that when we live life, people can see it. Oh, that's a Christian, because they're not gossiping about everyone else like everyone else is at the office, like everyone else is at school. They're not eating it up. They're not taking it in. They don't want to hear it. They're not repeating it. No, when they speak life. They speak grace. It is sweetness to be around this person. I wonder why. Father, as people look at our lives, may they wonder why grace seeps out of us. Restraint is the mode of operation. Why? Because we have been forgiven. And we seek to reflect that to others. Give us the wisdom to ignore insults, to know when to speak and when not to speak, when to stop listening, and when to listen. We need wisdom to live. So, Lord, give us the grace to listen to you more than to anyone else, to hear your words more than anyone online, to care more about what you say than anyone else in our life. May you be delighted in us and in what we say. In Jesus' name, amen. Friends, we're about to say some things here. I'm going to ask you that they be honest and sincere. Just know we're here for you. We're going to have the prayer team up front. If you need to just confess something, if you just need someone to pray with you, like, I'm not doing well in this area of my life, just know we're here for you. Come forward.